Welcome to Chapter 13 and 14. As you will see, this lecture is a little longer than the previous lectures because I'm combining two important topics. Benefits and risk management have great financial impact on any organization. If done well, both are expensive. And if done poorly, they're even more expensive. Have you ever been caught in an ice or a snowstorm? Everything is going fine, and then all of a sudden, the lights go out, the furnace stops, and everything is quiet. Most alarmingly, the TV and the internet go out as well. Now, with both the TV and the internet gone, surely our lives are in jeopardy. We imagine the next few weeks without power and decide that we have to find some place to stay to get our necessities back in working order. I've experienced that. Believe me, it's intense. The power going out is like benefits. We take the power for granted. We flip a switch or we push a button and things happen. Life is good. But when the power is absent, we really miss it. We neither appreciate it nor miss it when we have it. It's only when it's gone do we understand its true impact on our lives. Such are benefits. We tend to take benefits for granted. But when we don't have them, they have meaning. When we have to pay for those things ourselves, we miss them. Often we don't appreciate benefits even when we use them. We go to the emergency room and we don't worry about the cost because our insurance will take care of it. Often we don't even see the bill and the charges are someone else's problem. Such anonymity with a small price tag of 30 to 35% of payroll, and that's what the text identifies as the average cost of benefits, that's big money. That's like spending $100,000 on a high-performance car. That's invisible. It works, but no one appreciates it. Have we done a bad job of communicating about benefits or what? And when I said that compensation changes slowly, benefits are changing at breakneck speed. It's difficult to tell where some benefits are now, like healthcare, let alone where they're going. Now, the text gives you a good idea of where benefits are currently, and sometimes between the lines, the authors point out some trends about where certain aspects of benefits are going. As I read the text, I found those insights interesting, albeit somewhat obscure at times. As we go through this lecture, I'll try to bring some of those trends in the open and maybe even add a few of my own. I'll also give you an example of a few benefit plan components that I found interesting and useful in the past. Benefits are expensive, they're highly regulated, they cover a wide area of people's lives, they're complex to administer, and believe me, they're important. I believe that benefits, perhaps more importantly, offer great opportunity for organizations to differentiate themselves in the labor market. And benefits are a tool to be used by the organization in the drive for success and greatness. Ignoring the impact of benefits, like ignoring development and compensation, doesn't mean failure. It just means mediocrity. Although you may not have thought about it before, you are certainly familiar with benefits because you have them now, or they will be a major concern when you do seek employment. But risk management should be familiar as well, since you engage in that activity in your private life also. And I'll make that analogy during this lecture. The text starts with risk in Chapter 14 and defines the risk organizations face, particularly if they don't meet their responsibilities in the physical work environment. Accidents, safety, illness, substance abuse, workplace violence, and disaster planning all deal with physical dangers present in all workplaces. The danger will never go away, but we must take appropriate steps to mitigate the risk and provide adequate remedies and assistance when the dangers do arise and impact people. That's Chapter 14. The two chapters together represent big money, but also important protections for employees. So let's explore the organization's responsibility in these two important areas of business. Welcome to Chapter 13 and 14, Managing Employee Benefits and Risk Management and Worker Protection. So what is the relationship between benefits and risk management? Well, the text defines risk management as responsibilities to consider physical, human, and financial factors to protect organizational and individual interests. The text also defines a benefit as an indirect reward given to an employee or group of employees for organizational membership. You all know what benefits are. The text further indicates that the major component of risk management is health, safety, and security. Now, it can be argued that a large measure of benefits are centered on those same three components. Healthcare, life insurance, disability insurance, 401k, and others help employees mitigate risk for themselves and their families. So these two chapters are strongly related, and you will discover that the next chapter on employee rights and responsibilities is also tied into these chapters. Although I will endeavor to keep them separate, they will inevitably cross each other from time to time. So let's start a discussion with benefits, and then we'll move on to risk management. So what can we say about benefits? How about they're expensive? How about they're confusing? How about they are underappreciated? How about they are increasingly necessary to attract and retain the best employees? How about they, along with pay, create our company reputation? Another thing we can surmise about benefits is that although some organizations offer more or better benefits, they all start at a base and build from there. Most companies that offer benefits, yes, there are still some companies that offer no benefits at all, start with life insurance, vacation pay, holiday pay, and in the past, some form of health care. From the base, benefits branch to all different directions depending on the industry and the location of the company. These base benefits often cost the most, and interestingly enough, they are the most taken for granted. I suppose that's because employees expect these, and the base benefits don't go over and above those expectations. The creative benefits are more appreciated because they are unusual. Education benefits, adoption benefits, childcare, etc., fall into this category. That doesn't even consider mandatory benefits that are required by state and federal entities. Yes, benefits are expensive. They are expensive to purchase, to administer, and consider this, they are rapidly becoming a rather permanent fixture in the organization. Once granted, it is very difficult to take benefits away. I worked for a company that offered a large number of holidays. I believe it was about 16 or 17 holidays during the year. The finance people believed that we should have 8 or 10 at the most. They were adamant that we should change our policy and reduce the number of holidays to around 10. I refused. Of course, I like the holidays too, but the primary reason for my refusal was employee morale. Our holidays distinguished us from other employers in the area. Employees were hired based on the promise of 16 holidays. Changing that contract just because we wanted to save money was underhanded, in my opinion. Morale would most certainly have suffered, and our reputation would have been affected. Number crunchers would have been thrilled, but everyone else would have been looking for the exits. Now, I'm not implying that taking holidays away in and of itself would have caused people to leave. The financial impact would have been rather small on individuals. However, it was part of who we were. It was part of our culture. To take something away that was agreed upon at the outset would have shown employees that we would not honor our commitments. Now, if we were in difficult financial times and needed to save the money to save the company, I would consider such a change, and I believe employees would support that action. Needless to say, the number of holidays were never changed. The text indicates that the cost of benefits averages from 30 to 35% of payroll expenditures. Now that is a big, big number. Some of these expenses are in the control of the organization, but a large amount are beyond the control of the company. Those out of control costs are obvious in healthcare. The organization can exert some minor influence, but the cost of such benefits are either based on usage or are market driven. Just like in compensation, an organization can afford to spend just so much on benefits. The size of the benefit pie is finite. So, how do we spend that money? Obviously, some of the money is taken up by benefits already offered and by increasing cost of those benefits. If we decide we want to differentiate ourselves from our labor market competitors further in terms of benefits, how do we decide what to offer? That depends on what employees value, the cost of the benefit, and what it will return to the company in terms of reputation, recruiting power, etc. So, how do we know? Well, one sure way to answer that question, what do employees value, is to ask. Ask employees what they value. At Nestle, we did just that. I was considering adding some form of child care benefits. My idea was to partner with a local child care facility where our employees could enroll their children at a much discounted rate. Since our population was young and there were many children, we could offer a child care organization great volume in exchange for the discounted rates and other services such as coverage on second and third shift employees. We didn't have a lot of money to spend, so this was a very attractive option. I surveyed several teams within the organization and received some very interesting feedback. Employees were not interested in such an arrangement. Employees already had child care lined up for their children and were not really interested in pulling their children out of an established environment and reintroducing them into a new environment, even at a discounted rate. It wasn't worth the disruption in the family. We dropped that idea and spent our money on a different kind of benefit for employees. How do you know? Ask. That goes for existing benefits as well. Do employees value them? Ask. If not, then perhaps it's worth visiting other alternative benefits which mean something to employees. We know we will spend money, but how do we spend the money is just as important when considering benefits. When looking at holiday benefits, one company in which I worked had a standard number of holidays plus one floating holiday. The floating holiday was designated by management each year in January. Some management felt that we should change the floating holiday and fix it to a certain date. We thought employees would want an extra day in the summer, such as the day before or after July 4th. And that was when children were out of school. We decided to ask employees. Another surprise. Employees wanted the holiday in the fall when school was in session. Many stated that they wanted the holiday to relax by themselves without children or spouses around. Who would have thought? We changed the policy and granted the holiday each year, but it was declared as soon as we knew what the school schedule contained. It was always scheduled after school started. Employees love this holiday. The lesson is spend your money wisely, and to do so, you must ask and not guess. That advice seems to apply to other aspects in life and not just benefits. Don't we wish our politicians would do that? So where are benefits going? Let's look at a few trends pointed out in the text and some others I feel are related to benefits. They represent my and other projections for the future. Trends are not finite in that I can't tell you when and how much, but I can merely believe that we will see these items in the future. I'm pointing out direction, not speed or destination. The text points out that the public sector workers have traditionally had more benefits than private sector workers. Government workers have always had better benefits and traditionally lower pay. However, now they are making more money than private sector workers and the benefits are increasing as well. I predict that the public sector workers are going to come under much closer scrutiny, and although pay and benefits will continue to increase, the trend will turn in the future and the public sector will come in line more with the private sector. Why should you care what the public sector workers are making? Well, you should care because you are the employer. You are paying the bill through your taxes. This problem is bad in the federal government, but is much worse in local governments. Many small cities can't sustain the increases and are forced into bankruptcy. Taxes are raised to an almost unsustainable level. It hits you in the pocket. How long before taxpayers say enough? We will see. The number of part-time positions will increase. This is due partly to Obamacare, but also employers trying to curb the increases in costs of benefits. One way to slow down the cost is to have less people covered under the benefits. There are two ways to accomplish this. First, change benefit plans and cover fewer people, or take benefits away from current employees. That is not a particularly good option. The second is to hire more part-time employees rather than full-time employees and not offer any benefits or at least reduce benefits. We are already seeing this trend develop. As the population ages and baby boomers reach retirement, we will see more people staying on the work rolls longer or retiring later due to the economy. We will also see more companies encourage phased retirement. See the text definition on page 96 of that, to stem the massive knowledge loss many organizations with older employees will experience. This trend is highlighted starting on page 457 in the text. We will see more companies going to flexible or cafeteria benefit plans in the future due to diversity in the working population. An example of both a cafeteria type benefit program is illustrated by the company I worked for in the mid-80s. Employees were given a certain amount of money each month earmarked for benefits. They could choose to spend the money on a list of benefits. For example, let's assume each employee were given $1,000 a month to spend. The expenditures had to be committed each year and they could only change under specific circumstances. The inventory of benefits may include healthcare plan number one, $500, healthcare plan number two, $400 per month. Number three is $300 per month. Life insurance one was $200. Life insurance two was $100. Child care was $200. Disability insurance may have been $100. Education assistance may have been $200, and so on. There were other offerings, but you get the idea. They made their selections, and if they totaled $1,000 per month, the benefits were paid. If they totaled over $1,000 per month, the excess was deducted from their pay. If they totaled less than $1,000 per month, the difference was given to the employee in their pay. Everyone received the same monetary amount in benefits, either in actual benefits or in money in the paycheck. Those who wanted more benefits were able to obtain more but had to pay out of their pocket. This plan equalized a big inequity in benefit plans. I don't have children at home. My children are grown. Why should I pay for child care benefits out of my share of the pie when I will never use the benefit? I'm interested in retirement benefits at a high level. An employee in their 20s with 3 kids do not want to pay for high-level retirement benefits out of their share of the pie. In addition, the benefit coverage can obviously change as my life changes. I can emphasize one area of benefits when my family is young and another when my family is grown. The advantage to the company, our benefit costs per employee were stable. We could plan on $1,000 per month per employee. In addition, our employees appreciated our benefits. They selected them annually and had a financial stake in each benefit. Needless to say, employees loved this plan. One disadvantage was that it might drive adverse selection, which is described in page 449. I predict we will see more cafeteria and flexible benefit plans as a result, perhaps more adverse selection. The cafeteria plans may help control costs, but adverse selection may drive costs up. Hopefully, it will wash out. We will see more direct employee involvement in benefit administration through the internet. The plan discussed above is perfect for employees to administer the service of their own needs through the internet. We will see a broadening of benefit plans to include domestic partners and other groups. Some of these plans are already here, and their increased offering by organizations will be a result of public and social pressure, but also a desire to recruit more competitively. In terms of health care, I don't know what will happen, but I am almost sure costs will go up and the deductibles will go up as well. Keep in mind that if an employer or the government is paying for your entire health care plan, but you have a $5,000 deductible, the first $5,000 of medical expenses are on you. That's like having no coverage at all. I know this because I just came off of 2 years with a $5,000 deductible coverage plan. It is not how much a medical plan covers, it is how much it pays. Don't be fooled. To contain costs, I predict deductibles will increase dramatically in the near future. I also predict we will see more child care programs and elder care programs offered by larger companies. Their programs present real value to employees and meet the needs of older employees who are faced with caring for older family members and younger employees with children. I also believe we will see a proliferation of wellness programs and benefits. Paid gym memberships, monitoring employees with difficult medical conditions, smoking cessation programs, weight control programs, etc. These programs impact healthcare and disability costs, but also contribute to a happier workplace. I expect we will start communicating the benefit of benefits better, principally because we can't do a worse job than we already have. The benefit of benefits should be communicated regularly and often. How do we communicate benefits effectively? When putting out a company newsletter, it is necessary, as in all publications, to have fillers to take up unused space on each page. My fillers were benefit related. For example, did you know that a typical birth at XYZ hospital costs $20,000? Our insurance plan paid an average of $19,000 for each birth, leaving employees to pay only $1,000. The company insurance paid 95% of the cost. I used those fillers in my newsletters to advertise benefits. I also ran articles related to coverages and how they benefit employees in the newsletter. I posted such information on bulletin boards and placed flyers on the lunch tables in the break rooms with benefit information. I put televisions in break rooms and lobbies with company information and news including benefits streaming across the screen. Every opportunity to send a message was utilized to sell benefits. Sounds like a marketing action, doesn't it? Remember, one of our first discussions about marketing in HRM, benefits is a prime candidate for an intense and continuous marketing program. Finally, I predict that the benefit costs will increase. No surprise there. They will increase, but will companies just pay the increase or actually analyze their benefits and figure out how to get the most bang out of their benefit buck? Now, benefits are focused on employees and families, are typically outside the organization walls. And risk management, although it's not exclusively, is generally focused inside the organization walls. As I said earlier, the major components of risk management are health, safety, and security. The whole thing may sound complicated, but it's really not. You involve yourself in risk management at home all the time, and you involve yourself in the same three areas. Health in the home is ensuring that you have a healthy household. You may promote fitness for your family members or ensure your kids eat healthy foods, or you may ensure the environment is clean and livable. Safety has an obvious application at home. Keep guns away from children. If you have small children, you may plug up electrical receptacles so small fingers can't explore bad places. You may put child locks on your cabinets so small minds and bodies can't explore bad chemicals and substances. And finally, security is a major concern as well. Door locks and fences may be part of your home to protect those from within from those from without. And perhaps the biggest method of protecting in all three areas is insurance. You buy insurance to protect yourself and your family from the expense of unforeseen tragedies. Homeowners or apartment insurance, life insurance, health insurance, auto insurance, disability insurance, and the list goes on. In the workplace, as it should be at home, Risk management is about protecting from an unanticipated financial expense or loss, but it is also taking the necessary steps to ensure that the events causing the loss are less likely to occur. And sometimes at home, risk management is about ensuring peace of mind on the part of yourself and family members. At work, it is ensuring peace of mind among investors, employees, and stakeholders. As example, one of our relatives was very afraid of tornadoes. Every time the sky clouded up during tornado season, they became very agitated. They finally put a storm shelter in their backyard. They couldn't prevent a tornado, but they could feel safer by providing additional protection, such as it in the workplace. In the workplace, federal and state regulations often mandate some health, safety, and security measures. The number and nature of such measures depends on the nature of the business. For example, at Nestle, employees were required to wear uniforms and were prohibited from wearing jewelry of any kind. The purpose of both was to promote cleanliness and to prevent jewelry or parts of jewelry from falling into the product and subsequently causing injury to consumers. We made a food product, and there were very stringent regulations governing our workplace. And that's a good thing. You have the same restrictions at home. You can't dump garbage in your front yard. You must have electrical water and other utilities constructed in a particular manner. But it alleged that we were using formaldehyde in our production. You can't store certain chemicals and the fumes were making people sick. You can't run a certain business out of your house. I laughed at the absurdity of the complaint. I suppose we were burying bodies. Another similarity is that both at home and the workplace, we did have formaldehyde in our press board inventory. And it is ever changing, known to leach from the health risks change as new dangers arise. The area was well ventilated. The emergence of new chemicals to have the air quality tested research that demonstrates the on a regular basis. Always there but unknown. Way better than the prescribed action by OSHA. Also, in terms of security, and our primary concern used to be someone breaking into our home. I also pointed out that I had received no complaints in the good old days. We rarely even of course, he had to see and test for himself, so I had led him into the facility. And I don't know of anyone. Since his inspection was a result of complaint, he was supposedly relegated to only the affected areas for investigation. However, while walking through the facility, he commented on his cleanliness and order. Breaking into our physical home, he noted some other chemicals he observed, and I invited him to test the air in those areas, even though they were not part of the investigation. He declined, and I insisted, stating that we have nothing to hide and value OSHA's input into our much of risk management is regulated. Once in the area of question preference. He was surprised. We are concerned here primarily with the regulations that not only mandate risk the area be managed, upon entering in many respects we mandate some risk be managed in a certain way. I explained the nature of the complaint. The text covers workers' compensation. The One manager inquired as to the timing of the OSHA and many more. When we might receive the results from the test and bad. The inspector suggested that we may receive results in 1 to 2 months on their own. At that, we all started to laugh. The workplace was not puzzled. And I explained that the complaint was that we were making people sick and ensure that businesses with such an onerous complaint, one would think that the results of the test would be much. But there are also problems with these regulations. He shrugged his shoulders. Like anything in government, bureaucracy seems to become a part of the fabric of any government. The lesson is, and before long, the regulations will morph into something onerous, such as the federal government. Agencies grow and expand, and the regulations become more inane. They will normally be a day late and as they do so, they restrict the rights of organizations. Must be committed to meeting responsibilities. Make no mistake, some of those restrictions are justified, but at times, government agencies go beyond. But the bottom line on all risk management programs is commitment and hard work. Risk management doesn't go away because something was done once. Organizations must emphasize the right procedures, behaviors, and processes and provide an environment as free. The hard work comes in the form of education, diligent monitoring, employers to meet that responsibility, unless they are given the right words about disaster planning, a drug-free work environment, and to because I believe it is becoming increasingly. Therefore, the courts have This is an activity that is gaining in popularity with the recent issues regarding tornadoes, and restricted some employee privacy rights and other natural disasters. And we should add man-made disasters to that list. Not only are the courts involved in defining rights, but federal and local government I'll give you an interesting antidote about define and enforce regulations pertaining to risk responsibility. I worked at a hospital. Once again, I'll assert one of my governmental agencies get plan and conduct bureaucracy disaster drill rapidly. We did it upright. Is a perfect example. We involved the local police and fire departments, regulatory agents, the media, and don't misunderstand. I'm not saying that OSHA is not useful. It serves a very valid a different disaster each year, and includes airplane crashes, tornadoes, bus crashes, etc. And criticizing a government agency on how to handle a large not the same thing as calling for into the hospital in a short time period. Also, keep in mind that the reason we have OSHA in the first place is this type of disaster not safe. So, what type of disaster did we face in real life? The text discusses criticism of blizzard. And those are the Great Midwest Blizzard of 1978. We will also roads were closed and management and meet power was out for many people. Much better. Did we have a large influx of patients? When I worked at Crown Wood Products, an OSHA inspector showed up at the door. We had no patients. To investigate a complaint. No one could get in with the agency or out, either staff or surprise. That didn't mean that people didn't get sick or babies didn't have to be delivered. The problem wasn't too many people coming in. It was how to get out to provide the service to a few in dire need of medical service. Doctors were transported on snowmobiles, and Army tanks were sent to deliver babies at home. Patients were transported in the same manner into the hospital by people with little medical training. It worked, but we learned a lesson. We thought we were ready, but we weren't. What we thought would happen didn't. What we didn't anticipate did. Be ready for disasters, but be ready for any and all disasters. And if your workplace doesn't have a plan or practice for disasters, suggest they start. It is the responsibility of the organization to provide a safe workplace, even in disastrous circumstances. Another risk management and an example of conflicting rights involves drug testing, which I mentioned earlier. Many disagree with drug testing, espousing the argument that it violates individual rights. I am a firm believer in a drug-free environment and employee rights to work in a drug-free environment. I also believe that employers have a responsibility to provide such an environment. Drugs in the workplace present a huge safety risk to employees. To that end, every place I have worked and possessed the authority, I have instituted pre-employment drug testing and random drug testing. In the random drug testing program, everyone was eligible for tests every month, including the CEO. Drug tests were administered to 1% to 2% of the population each month, and participants were randomly chosen. A drug-free workplace is a responsibility that conflicts with individual rights of employees, but also balances the right of employees to work in a risk-free environment. We will talk more about this conflict of rights and responsibilities next week, but it gives you another indication of how closely benefits, risk management, and employee rights and responsibilities are related. It seems there are no easy answers. These are important chapters. Study them carefully. As you enter or continue your career search, it is a good idea to start amassing a list of benefits that are critical for you and your family, and benefits that you would like to see. Pay attention to risk management programs and organizations that you consider for a career. They say something about the culture. They help define the organization.